This tutorial is an introduction to three-dimensional graphics and visualization in IGOR. To display data or objects in 3 dimensions, we use a plugin called gizmo. Gizmo is part of the standard installation. Its features can be accessed from IGOR menus or from the command line. In a typical application, you might want to display a 2-dimensional wave or as a surface plot, for example. So the first thing that you would do is you'd go to Data menu and open up the data browser. Just take a look and see what waves you have in the experiment. In this case, we have a couple of waves. The first one has 100 rows by 100 columns. So it's a 2D wave that you can display a surface plot of. To display that plot, we go to Windows menu, New, 3D Plots, Surface Plot. We get a surface dialog, and in this dialog we have this wave, my 2D wave, pre-selected. We can click OK, and we see the default surface plot in Gizmo. What you would notice is that Gizmo has 3 components. There is the main window that displays the data. There is a Gizmo menu in the menu bar. And there is a Gizmo info window that consists of 3 lists here. We're going to discuss each one of these windows and the menu in detail later. Let's start with the main Gizmo window. The main Gizmo window acts as a virtual trackball. You can click and hold the mouse button down anywhere in this window, and when you drag the mouse, you'll rotate the surface. You can rotate the surface and bring it to a desired orientation, the one that shows your data or the features that you're interested in the best way. You can also right-click in this window. You'll get a pop-up menu from which, for example, you can edit the background color. So say I chose gray here. We got a different background color. You can also right-click here and choose Show Axis Cue, and so on. So this is the main Gizmo window. The Gizmo info window is a bit more complicated. It contains 3 lists. There is an attribute list here, there is an object list in the center, and there is a display list. At this point, there is nothing in the attribute list. You really don't need anything terribly complex for the default plot. We have 2 objects, a surface object and an axis object. And here on the display list, we find that we have 3 items, the surface and the axis that we've seen before, plus a clear color. Each one of these objects you can double-click on and affect or change their characteristics or preferences, if you will. Only items that appear on the display list are actually displayed in the graph. So, for example, if I choose the axis object in the display list and delete it by hitting the delete key, as you can see, the axes are no longer visible in the display. We just have the axis cue. To get the axis back in the display, we'll just drag the axis object from here and drop it in the display list, and we get the axis again. We can double-click on the axis, and we can double-click on it in the display list or in the object list. It makes no difference. It's the same object. And we can get the preferences here that control all aspects of the display of the axis. So, for example, if we click on the Axis tab, we can choose axis X0. We can turn off the numerical labels, and as you can see, the numerical labels for that axis are now gone. We can also change all other characteristics from the axis color, individual color for each axis. So, for example, change the X0 axis to red, to any other property. Similarly, if you double click on the surface object, you can change the color map or any other characteristic of the surface using that dialog. Now, what's with the main gizmo menu? The main gizmo menu has a number of options that are just designed to make life easier in terms of automating certain tasks. In addition to that, it provides a group of panels that let you control the way the display looks. So for example, if you chose rotation here, you get a rotation panel. And if you click on top view, you get a top view of the graph, X view, Y view, etc. You can also click on spin, which will start spinning the graph. And you can play around with the spin by giving the spin a different rotation components and so forth. You can click here to stop the rotation. Close the rotation dialog. You can go again to Gizmo menu and choose axis range. Click on auto scale all axis so we can see the range in all dimensions. And for example, suppose we set the maximum Z to 0.01. When we hit enter, our graph was squashed so that the top would correspond to 0.01. So this allows us to control the min and max of this particular graph. So to summarize, we took a quick look at Gizmo and its three components: the main display window, the information window, and Gizmo's menu in the menu bar. In the following video tutorials, you'll find an overview of the type of graphs that you can create in Gizmo, and also detailed examples of common and some advanced features. This concludes this tutorial.